Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. I'm Kenneth Kinney, but friends call me Shark. And like you, I'm a professional speaker, and I love listening to Speakernomics. It's the professional speaker show that will help you thrive and grow a speaking business so you too can change the world one keynote session, workshop, and speech at a time. And on this episode, we welcome Greg Wasserman. He's the head of relationships for Castmagic. And what is Castmagic, you ask? It's an AI-powered software that turns audio and video files into written content. It can help professionals like podcasters, speakers, marketers, coaches save time and effort by automating content workflows and post-production. Greg, welcome to Speakernomics. How are you today?
Amazing, Shark. Thanks for having me on here.
Absolutely. Now, to all my speaking friends, you've got great content. You've curated this content. You spent years building and writing this, and you get a great speech or you're on a great podcast like Speakernomics. What do you do with that content to work smarter, not harder, and take content that you can share across your social channels, across your website, and so many other platforms in a quick and efficient way? So before we jump in, make sure to go to Speakernomics.com. That's where you can find the tips, insights, and knowledge to help you become a better speaker, build a better business, and get paid to speak. Greg, let's dive in. So tell me a little bit about how Castmagic works compared to other platforms that are out in this space.
Yeah, so Castmagic, we started off as a podcast platform and then quickly realized, just like speakers do more than just speaking, there's so much conversations that are being had. So platforms ultimately, how do we turn any conversation into content that you can repurpose like magic? And so could be a keynote speech you've done, or you sat on a panel and you're sitting there with all this content. You go on a podcast. It's like, great. What do I do with that? Like you said. So running through Castmagic, you're going to get an amazing transcription and then automating all the content that you would need to pull out of it. So whether it's a blog, a newsletter, your standard LinkedIn posts and Twitter feeds. But what I love to do is like take coaching calls or go to a conference, and how do I aggregate the multiple pieces of content from a conference and then turn that into the summary for my day of like, hey, here's what I learned today, as opposed to like, what did I learn today? Well, I talked to a lot of people, but like, what did I actually learn? Great. Now I record it, run it through Castmagic, and I've got it. So ultimately, it's going to, like you said, work smarter instead of harder.
Well, you said run it through Castmagic, but not to get too intricate, but tell us what you're basically doing. You're taking a video file or an audio file and uploading it, and then you get a transcription. But unlike a lot of those where they just transcribe, your platform does so much more. Talk about the type of content that it will produce.
So we know that, like I said, you do so many things. So the way we're set up is we've got different spaces with different profiles. Each profile, whether you're a podcast, whether it's an event, whether it's a sales call, comes pre-designed with prompts, in that sense, content blocks. So we already know, based on the kind of recording you're giving us, we're going to give you all this content out of the box. And then the joy is I give you full control to come up with whatever content blocks you would want. So any prompts you would want. So if you want to start extracting, coming things up, as we know with AI, nothing's perfect. So you've got the full ability to edit, but also the full ability to create whatever you'd want out of it. So ultimately, I've been able to take a podcast like here and come up with 10 different LinkedIn posts in 10 different styles. And therefore, every time I have a podcast, those 10 prompts or those 10 different formats of LinkedIn will run. So I'm working smarter, not harder, quickly done, and I'm easy to move on to the next piece, or start the editing process, because no one wants to sit there and create 50 pieces of content. We just want to be able to edit it. And so from there, then you're able to go ahead and you can make clips. So once again, Castmagic's focused on giving you the control. So there's other platforms out there that go like, great, I'll make you 30 clips. And what most people end up saying is like, there's only a few of them that were actually useful. So we'll give you the framework, and then you get to clip and create the segments that you want from there.
So one of the use cases, and you mentioned it earlier, and I think this is great, is looking at taking a coaching call and turning that into a course. Explain to people how they basically do that, because I know there are platforms out there where you get a lot of notes, but it doesn't really help move you forward other than just a 60% correct description of what people said.
That's a good point. So if you think about it, Shark, like most of us we're lazy. At the end of the day, I don't want to sit here and take notes. So if I've got a platform that could take the notes and summarize it for me and give me an agenda, my mind, I'm like, great, that's all I need. But the reality is I've got my blinders on. The blinders being like, that's the bare minimum that something should be able to do. What if I could do so much more to that? So in this case, like I take my coaching calls and I'm like, well, if I'm already coaching about these things, like what more can I do with that? Well, let's turn into a LinkedIn post. Great. So now I've got content. Doesn't matter who I'm coaching, but the value of that. And then since I'm talking about this all the time, use a prompt. We have a feature called Pages. Pages allows you to take multiple recordings. So for speakers, it's like, great, how do I aggregate multiple speaking engagements I've done? Or one of the things I love speakers doing is they'll take the Q&A that's been recorded for each, because they're like, great, I'm giving the same speech at every stage, but the Q&A components are different. So what if I were able to aggregate all the Q&A from each of my speeches and now figure out what else should I be talking about based on the questions? How do I change my speech because I'm seeing a common theme of these questions? Or could I go ahead and create a FAQs and turn those questions into a, here's an additional resource based on what questions I know you're going to be asking. Like there's so many different ways you can start thinking about, like, if I had this, what would I do with it besides I just need a summary?
And I like the point you talk about pulling a keynote into one. What have you seen people do with keynotes when they're up on stage? Because I like the idea of it being able to extract this and that creates your next 10 posts on LinkedIn instead of trying to drive yourself nuts coming up with ideas, when you're sitting in a corner drinking a coffee at a local cafe. This helps eliminate it and actually repurposes what you're already saying, probably in a better way than you even think you're even saying it. That's part of the magic of it, if you will. But being able to take a keynote and extracting some things, I don't know that a lot of people necessarily look at it, use a tool to look at it from a 30,000-foot view.
There are also, from what I've gathered on the speaking side of it, is like you're hiring me to speak, right? So I'm not thinking about the content I'm on sharing on stage as content I want to share other places because I don't want to give that away. I want you to bring me in and that's what I'm going to speaking about. But in reality, it's like, no, you can take that keynote, you can turn that into pieces of content to promote yourself so more people build your authority and know that your brand is out there. We know people we hire people we like and trust. So how do you build trust? Take that keynote and then build out the content that you've got. But a tool like Castmagic is going to allow you to do it.
So what have you seen with use cases with sales calls?
So it's funny, there's a gentleman actually, there's a gentleman who is running a sales department for an auto dealership. And he has a rubric of ultimately all the things he needs to make sure that his customer service reps are asking and his sales teams are asking. So because of that, he went into Castmagic, literally built the rubric by asking it all the different prompts, going like, did my rep do this? Did my rep do that? So we ultimately built in a profile for sales discovery calls and customer discovery calls. So all you have to do is load it in there and it's going to tell you the competitors that the client talked about. Did your rep ask these questions? So you're able to start pulling that. What I love then seeing is, great, now give that to the marketing team and now start extracting information from those sales calls, not just for did my rep do X, Y, and Z, but can the marketing team now take what is being said, use it not only as coaching, but also how do we start building the assets that our marketing would need so we could build and generate more leads? From a sales standpoint, on a revenue, being in a revenue person, like we always joke, right? Marketing and sales are like oil and water, but in reality, like they could collaborate. They should be working together because at the core, we're helping the consumer. Speakers, we're helping the consumer, educating them on whatever the topic it is that we're doing. So it all comes together, and Castmagic helps you with that.
Well, one of the things that I noticed that you guys promote as well as far as a use case is you can take the context of the recording and create sort of a lead magnet. Have you seen anything interesting with that? Because I know a lot of people are looking for a reason to get people to come in. It's something we obviously do in performance marketing for brands, but I think it works. There's a good reason to do it and use case for it with lead magnets for speakers as well.
100%. That goes back to just whatever prompt you want to create, create it. So if I want to turn this into a lead magnet, if I want to turn this into a landing page description, if I want to turn this into a social media post. One of the prompts that I did aggregating my coaching calls was like, hey, build me a landing page so I can go ahead and get more coaching clients. So it gave me the framework, didn't build me the page, but gave me the text and the framework of like what I should be saying, what my call to action should be. And like, now I just go and build that web page out. But like, it gave me all the text based on what I'm coaching on so I can go get more coaching clients. Same concept would be if I'm looking for speaking engagements, right? Like building the framework of a lead magnet so you can go ahead and hire me and why you would hire me for whatever it is I'm talking about.
One of the things I noticed too, as well, is that the program does something where you can summarize something in Spanish as well. How many other languages does it touch on, or is it just Spanish that it does right now? I think that's fascinating.
Look, those of you that are listening, you probably know Terry Brock, and Terry Brock loves talking about that. That is his go-to. He's always like, hey, I live here in Florida. I've got a multicultural audience. I don't speak Spanish, but I would love to have it. So yeah, Castmagic allows you, whatever your recording is, will give you the transcript in that language. But then you can start asking it, well, give me a top 10 bullet point breakdown in Mandarin, or write me a LinkedIn post in Spanish, or as Terry loves to do, turn this into a blog post in Spanish. So he's now able to start conversing and engaging with an audience who finds his content relevant, but he doesn't speak that language. So now he's able to go ahead and put it in a language that they would. It's a game changer, because now that it gives you another whole level of SEO, whole nother level of audience that you're able to engage with, and continue to build your brand authority.
Where do you think these kind of tools, yours in particular, obviously, but where do you see this going? I mean, this has evolved quickly, because I've been podcasting on and off for quite a few years, and this has been the technology. It's pretty exciting to see where this is going.
I mean, I truly believe AI is going to make us better communicators. So speakers, I'm sure you can relate to that, but like, you have to give it prompts, and it doesn't know what you're thinking. So you have to be able to give it and tell it, this is what I want you to do. I want you to turn this into X, right? So I think the proliferation of content, like we've always said, my background's in advertising, like background in that is content's king, and that's always been the case. So I think there's going to be so much content out there now, which is great, but the joys of what Castmagic is it's you. We are only leveraging the recording you put in there. I'm not looking at outside noise. So it is brand you, which becomes a key piece. So what is it that you have to say? How do you have to say it? And how do you get that into the hands of as many people so they can engage with you, whether it's on stage, whether it's a newsletter, wherever that may be.
Hey friends, this is Grant Bolden, founder and CEO of the Speaker Lab. Now, since starting the company in 2016, we've helped literally thousands of speakers just like you build and grow their speaking business. So whether you're a brand new speaker or you're a seasoned veteran, we want to help you get booked and paid to speak in 2024. So if you're interested in learning more about how we can help, head over to thespeakerlab.com/NSA. Schedule a free call with our team. Again, that is thespeakerlab.com/NSA. We can't wait to talk to you. You're awesome.
What do you think is the most interesting use case you've seen for speakers as a whole?
One of my favorites that I've seen is being able to write a book using Castmagic. Now, of course, there's a couple other tools that are being put into there, but like, if you can listen, I'm an external processor. I talk. That is why I probably need to go through speaker school and become a better speaker, so that like I've got the better, clear, concise conversations. But like, I just want to ramble. So I use the mobile app. Once again, shout out Terry Brock, talks about this as well. Use the mobile app. I just ramble my thoughts in there and then have that turn into whatever I need. In this case, ramble your thoughts, turn that into the script so that you can go to the stage going like, great, I rambled my ideas. How do I turn those ideas into the speech that I would want to actually present from the stage, as opposed to trying to fine tune it with typing it out and editing it? No, let it do the work for you, and then fine tune it by editing it within the platform. But writing a book is another fun one. Most speakers want to become authors, or vice versa. They're on stage to sell their books. So I know Marty Dickinson's a big fan of this, and ultimately, how do you go ahead and do that? So you could ramble your thoughts, get a clean transcription out of it, and send that to your editor like he's done, or just use a basis of prompts so that it pulls that together and starts writing the chapters for you. That becomes a game changer as well.
Yeah, that sounds like me. That's somebody that's been rambling their thoughts for too many decades. And if I could just figure out a magical way to hone that in, I'll use Castmagic even more. Well, I know a lot of people are really using this a lot. A lot of speakers that are using this a lot. NSA, in all transparency, uses as well, and I think it's been a fantastic tool. So let's do a quick recap based on Greg's magical advice. Number one, work smarter, not harder. Instead of spending a ton of time thinking about individual posts and all these kind of things, start thinking about what it looks like at a higher level, and then leverage a piece of technology to help you do this much more quickly and in a much more efficient way. Number two, I love something he shared about the way we share content, and it could be shared in snippets. We don't want to give everything away for free, but you can create a whole lot of breadcrumbs that help deliver the overall arching message that you want to share in pieces. They're going to want to hire you to pull that all together on stage. And number three, not everybody's a great marketer, but you've got to, again, leverage tools like this to help build the assets for you, because that's what the marketplace needs to see. They need to see more of you in a clean and efficient and magical way, I may say, in order to help them be able to piece together what it is that you talk about, what your expertise is, and so on and so forth. So, Greg, thank you again for being with us. I'm looking forward to, if I don't see you at this Influence, I'll see you at another event at some point where we'll have a magical time. But any closing thoughts before we get out of here and go create some magic of our own?
Yeah, I would say the fourth thing that would add to that I didn't get to talk about, but it becomes a game changer, is what if you could give assets as soon as you're done with speaking on the stage to not only the attendees but to the conference. Now you will be able to build your value and going like, I'm coming here not just to speak, but providing you more takeaways. And so I've started seeing a lot of speakers doing that, where they're like, they've used our mobile app, transcribed with Castmagic. As soon as they get off the stage, they have built entire workbooks. So now they're able to go to everyone going like, hey, here are the takeaways that no one else from stage is being able to provide, because you've now got a tool that allows you to do that. You're offering more value, therefore you can charge more.
I love every bit of that. We were talking about conferences before, and I ran my own show, as many people know, just a few months ago. And I stressed when speaking with all of the speakers that I wanted everybody to have three key takeaways that we're going to leave the audience with. But, you know, when I'm running around in 8,000 different circles, it made me see just the viewpoint from running a conference, how great this would have been to deliver that follow-up from the audio captured there on the stage, and really deliver that in a, I'm going to say magical, but efficient manner, to where it can do the legwork for you without having to rethink all this stuff. I think it's great for speakers, and it's great for conferences as well. Well, friends, make sure to join us at Speakernomics.com and let your voice be heard. I'm Kenneth Kinney, your host of the National Speakers Association's podcast, Speakernomics, and this has been another magical episode of the show. Thank you, Greg, for sharing your story with NSA, and everyone listening. Thank you for the privilege of your time. And remember, Speakernomics is a podcast where you'll learn to speak, get paid, repeat.